So, folks, we gotta talk about Venezuela. Now, many of you are familiar. I reported just the other day that Donald Trump ordered a blockade of Venezuela. This is an act of war. Now, granted, the blockade is targeted against sanctioned oil tankers, but given the propensity of the US Navy at this point under Trump's order to just kill civilians on boats, the expectation that it would only affect the sanctioned tankers is laughably unsound, to say the least. And so, one of the things that has been interesting to see in like the hours and day or so since that initial declaration from Donald Trump is the reaction both from Congress and from Venezuela itself. Now, for Venezuela's part, people in Venezuela are livid. Like, they are angry as hell. And if this escalates into some kind of invasion or attempt to like put boots on the ground to overthrow Nicolas Maduro, like it's not gonna go well. Like there's gonna be a huge contingent of the country that will fight us every step of the way. And to an extent, rightfully so. We're the aggressors here, right? In defiance of the United States military, Venezuelan Navy vessels escorted various tankers through the blockade. Pentagon officials, surprised by President Trump's orders, scrambled to work out a plan to halt sanctioned tankers as Nicolas Maduro, Venezuela's leader, vowed resistance. Several ships sailed from Venezuela towards Asia, with a Venezuelan naval escort between them Tuesday evening and Wednesday morning, said three people familiar with the transits. None of the commercial vessels are on the list of sanctioned tankers the United States is threatening to target. But the recent cascade of events set off by the Trump administration's seizure of a tanker last week, and then by the president's order of a partial blockade on Tuesday, increased the likelihood of a violent conflict. And we're again, the president is unilaterally declaring acts of war. Blockades of countries are an act of war. Murdering the civilians of other countries is an act of war. Like, in the eyes of the entire world, we are doing the provocative, warmongering actions. We are the bad guys in the eyes of the entire world. There is no one who says, oh yes, no, what the United States is doing is rational and in its own self-defense. No. And if it was rational and in our self-defense, then Donald Trump could take it to Congress and go through the proper channels. Because again, I want to remind everyone, the Constitution of the United States stipulates that only Congress has the ability to declare war. You cannot, as president, simply play a semantic word game and say, oh, well, we labeled the entire government of Venezuela a terrorist organization, so that makes them fair game, tee-hee. Like, you can't do that. You can't be cute like that. We're talking about the goddamn Constitution of the United States of America, the foundational document under which our entire system functions. And if we begin ignoring that, then we are lawless and at the whims of a dictator. Now, of course, things have continued to escalate. So earlier tonight, during Donald Trump's address to the nation on how the economy is doing the best it's ever done, he said, lyingly, the United States blew up several more civilians in the Pacific this time. So, from 5 hours ago, U.S. struck another vessel in the Pacific. The United States military carried out a lethal strike on a vessel in the Eastern Pacific, killing 4 men, according to Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. On a post on Twitter/X, Hegseth wrote, Joint Task Force Southern Spear conducted a lethal kinetic strike on a vessel operated by a designated terrorist organizations. Oh my God. A designated terrorist organizations in international waters. Intelligence confirmed that the vessel was transiting along a known narco-trafficking route in the Eastern Pacific and was engaged in narco-trafficking operations. A total of 4 male narco-terrorists were killed, and no U.S. military forces were harmed. Except, again, no evidence is being provided that these people are, in fact, shipping drugs. And also, you can't just summarily execute people for shipping drugs. That's not a crime that comes with the death penalty. And again, the reason that they are all saying this is justified is because, well, we called them terrorists, so it's fine. It's disgusting. It's murder is what it is. There's no difference here between what Donald Trump is doing and an authoritarian despot ordering that, like, 4 people be killed a day until morale improves. There's no difference. This is just plain and simple state executions to keep his base happy. And it should really cause a lot of soul searching among the MAGA base that the thing that makes them happy is the president of the United States ordering civilians of another nation to be killed without trial, without due process, with no evidence being presented to them other than the president and the Secretary of War say that they're criminals and terrorists. And that should never be how a government functions, ever. So things have continued to escalate. And also, and I can't believe this is legit, The Hill posted a new survey. 63% oppose military action in Venezuela. And that, to me, seems like a very small majority. Like, only 63%, according to the latest Quinnipiac poll on the issue, say that we shouldn't get involved in a war in Venezuela. Like, that number should be in, like, the 80s. Donald Trump ran on no new wars. That was a huge thing. He was the anti-war president. And now, like, people are just like, well, you know, we should maybe invade Venezuela for no reason. You know, he's saying we'll just take back their oil, and I guess that's good. No, it needs to be higher than this. Now, granted, pollsters found 63% of American respondents said they oppose military action in Venezuela, compared with 25% who said they support it. And so this isn't 63% and then, 37% support an invasion. There is a solid, I'm really bad at 8% who don't know what their stance is. Maybe we should, maybe we shouldn't invade. No, not 8. No, 12%. Jesus, my math is terrible. 12%. I got a degree in English literature. I didn't get a degree in math. 12% who just don't know. Democrats, however, when broken down by party, Democrats overwhelmingly said they are against it at 89%, followed by 68% of independents and 33% of Republicans. So, I mean, at least a third of Republicans don't want this either. But, like, that's a surprisingly a majority of Republicans think it would be totally fine for the United States to invade Venezuela. Over half of Republicans are willing to say, no, it's okay for Donald Trump to break one of his biggest campaign promises of no new wars in order to invade Venezuela. It's just, God, I hate that. I hate this. I hate this so much. And of course, that is nowhere near a high enough rejection of military action against Venezuela for this to now fizzle out, right? Yet, however, Democrats are fighting the good fight. Well, we'll get to it. But here's Ilhan Omar speaking out against this, trying to introduce a bill to, like, curtail what the Trump administration is doing. Let's just hear her out.
The answer is that this is not about drugs. This is about regime change. And we also have the White House Chief of Staff on record saying that this is about regime change. It has nothing to do with drugs. I rise today in strong support of this resolution. I am proud to co-lead Ranking Member Meeks' effort and urge all of my colleagues to join us today in reasserting this body's constitutional authority on matters of war and peace. Because let's be perfectly clear, only Congress has the power to declare war. The Trump administration's military escalation in the Caribbean is not only reckless, it is blatantly illegal. We cannot allow this kind of dangerous overreach to go unchecked. Trump, a president who touts himself as a global peacemaker, has appointed himself as judge, jury, and executioner in the Western Hemisphere. This brutal military campaign, which has killed more than 90 people, further threatens a region that has already been destabilized by decades of US intervention. And it risks driving us into further war in Venezuela. The American people across the political spectrum have been clear that they do not want to fight and fund another war. With this vote, every member of Congress has the chance to show the American people where they stand. Will they enable Trump's illegal lawmaking, or will they stand on the side of the Constitution? Stand on the side of the Constitution and put an end to this unauthorized use of military force. I urge all of my colleagues to uphold the separation of powers and pass this resolution.
Now, of course, the question, will they stand with Donald Trump or will they stand with the Constitution? We kind of all know which way Republicans blow, don't we? Or rather, who Republicans blow. Here's one of the latest pieces from The Intercept. Congress squanders last chance to block Venezuela war before going on vacation. Because as we've all learned from our time monitoring Congress, come hell or high water or threat of regional war, Congress, they need their sweet treats. They need their little vacays. How do you expect them to function without their little vacays and sweet treats? At least George Bush had the decency to come to Congress for approval in 2002. Don't the American people deserve that respect today? And Congress said no. Because I want to really reiterate, one of the through lines through all of this is that Republicans and the wider GOP just think you're all morons and think you are all easily duped and think that, hey, actually, you know what? We can totally sell this war to steal Venezuela's oil. Sure, we'll send thousands of kids to go die on foreign soil so that, you know, our oil executives can have, their super yachts that all have tiny yachts inside of them. But, you know, they're not our kids. They're your kids. You know, working class kids, poor kids. So if they die, who gives a shit? That's really what it boils down to for Republican politicians. That is their internal thought process made manifest. And the House voted down not one, but two different measures to try and curtail the efforts of the Trump administration to provoke a war with Venezuela. That's multiple. We had multiple chances to try and rein in the Trump administration, and Republicans said, nah, it's all good. If we get into a regional war, that's good for all of us. Democrats sponsoring the measures were able to peel off only 2 Republicans on the first vote and 3 on the second as the GOP rallied around the White House. There are hundreds of members of the GOP in the House of Representatives. Only 3 of them were willing to consider making sure that Congress reasserts its constitutional power to declare war. Only 3 Republicans out of hundreds were willing to say, actually, our Constitution is worth a damn. The votes on Wednesday may have been lawmakers' last chance to push back on Trump before Congress' end-of-year break. A vote on a bipartisan measure in the Senate blocking land strikes is pending. The House voted 216 to 210 against the drug boats measure and 213 to 211 against the land strikes measure. Only 3 more Republicans would have been required to stop this, at least on the land strikes. Sorry, not even 3, 2 would have been required. The lead sponsor of the measure blocking an attack on Venezuela, Representative Jim McGovern, Democrat of Massachusetts, said Trump seemed to be rushing headlong into a war without making the case for it. Americans do not want another Iraq. If we intensify hostilities in Venezuela, we have no idea what we're walking into. At least George Bush had the decency to come to Congress for approval in 2002. Don't the American people deserve that respect today? The answer to that is no. Apparently. Representatives Thomas Massey, Republican of Kentucky, and Don Bacon, Republican of Nebraska, were the only Republicans to vote in favor of halting the boat strikes. And Democratic Representatives Henry Cuellar, recently pardoned by Trump, and Vicente Gonzalez, who represent Texas districts near the southern border, broke with their party to vote against restricting the strikes on boats. So, again, this is where we're at. Our method of governance is broken because Republicans have abdicated the responsibility of governing to the one man, and that man has a soup for a brain. We don't know which soup is in there, but we do know it is soup. And frankly, this should constitute some kind of illegal dereliction of duty on the part of every single goddamn Republican. It is embarrassing that people in this country elect those motherfuckers to represent them. Those same people who are advocating for their sons and daughters to be sent off into a meat grinder so that oil execs can pad their profits. It's disgusting. It's anti-American. It is a betrayal of the very foundational principles of this republic. And we must defeat them. So, folks, I'm asking you guys, if you want to do something about this, get involved with your local Democrats and radicalize them. Because this GOP coalition is going to fall apart and is going to be shattered by the midterms and in 2028. And when that happens, the real war for how we rebuild this country is going to be within the Democratic Party. So get to work early. Radicalize your local Dems. Show up to the meetings. Get them to adopt more progressive policies. And join your local DSA to make them more effective, to be a source of power to draw from so that your progressive bona fides, your progressive allies in the local area have an ability to organize beyond just your local Dems. Okay? It is very important. And if you need help joining your local Dems and radicalizing them, join our Discord. Reach out to Dragonfly. Dragonfly can help you radicalize your local Dems. She's been working at doing this for a long time, and she's willing to share her time and energy with you to help you do the same. And if enough of us do this, we can do real change. And if you want to join your local DSA and make them more effective, like the New York City DSA that got Zoran Mamdani elected, folks, join our Discord, reach out to GamerG, and talk about how to organize with folks in this community. I believe we're now at somewhere around 50 or 60 members who have joined DSA within our community. And we can have a real impact and make a real change and have actual real world results. So please get involved, because when we organize together, we win. So all that being said, also, please consider liking the stream. Like the show. Like the video. Leave a comment. Comments longer than 8 words really help it do better in the algorithm. And also consider subscribing if you haven't yet. And finally, last but not least, check out ImogeneOlivia.com. Gender euphoric lingerie designed from the ground up for trans femmes. We tested it with cis men, cis women, non-binary folks, anyone who wants to feel femme. Check it out. It is non-tucking lingerie. And I check. It's really, really good. I'm wearing it actually right now. Yeah, check it out. Link should be down in the doobly-doo. And let's keep on going.
Riverboat deck is going to town. All the viewers gather round. Twitch and YouTube is where she streams. All that content is bursting the scenes. Politics, dating, plenty more. Her sense of fashion you'll adore. So grab your stuff and